I'm Vic Myers. Welcome to The Resistance. The videos I've done this past week have been pretty dark. I want to close the week out with something a little more uplifting. I want to share a story about perseverance, quiet strength, and how what we do in our lives matters long after we're gone. Some of you might recognize this story, but most of you haven't heard it yet. In 1921, 8-year-old Elva Buskirk was riding her horse across the Kansas prairie when it got spooked by a snake, and she was thrown. She got a bad cut on her arm. With antibiotics still 7 years away from discovery, well, infection set in and little Elva lost her arm. Growing up on a Kansas prairie during the Dust Bowl years made her tough. Growing up with only one arm made her tougher. She earned a PhD in psychology, specializing in early childhood education, in an era when women didn't go to college, let alone get a PhD. She became a towering figure, 6'1", one-armed, and unstoppable. She became Mrs. Elva Dreibelbis, mother of 4 and special education teacher in Raton, New Mexico. Her pet peeve was when someone would say educating a particular child was a waste of time. As a special education teacher, this angered her, and she saw proving these people wrong as a personal challenge. I've met a few of her students. They remember Mrs. D fondly. Some of them credit her for the success they achieved in life. One of her students grew up to manage the only theater in town. One day, her son Bill came home from high school to a ringing phone. When he answered, on the other end was President John F. Kennedy. JFK was calling because Elva was working with his administration to develop what would one day become Head Start. I know this story because Bill was my father-in-law, and every now and then he would tell it at the dinner table. While Bill wasn't much for expressing his emotions, I always felt like he took a great deal of pride in his mother's accomplishments. In fact, after he retired from his career in law enforcement, he worked as a custodian and maintenance man at the local Head Start until the day he died. And 2 of my granddaughters, they got their start on learning at that very same Head Start school. Elva's determination left a mark that carried through generations. And Bill, in his own quiet way, carried that legacy forward. Because of them, the lives they touched and the example they set still matter today. That's the legacy of Elva Buskirk Dreibelbis, a legacy of strength, service, and lasting impact. Thanks for listening. Good day.